What if being yourself was the bravest thing you could do? In today's episode, I sit down with Ola Parkes, a spiritual guide and intuitive healer, to talk about the quiet revolution of returning to yourself. Ola shares the masks she's had to shed, the fears she's faced, and the power of asking one simple question each morning. What do I want to do today? We talk about intuition, inner safety, and the sacred practice of choosing joy. Not someday, but now. This conversation is a beautiful mirror for anyone longing to come home to who they really are. I can't wait for you to listen. Ola Parkes, welcome to the Orykl podcast. You are a spiritual guide and coach. You practice intuitive healing, energy clearing. I know that you worked with a lot of entrepreneurs as well and leaders and helping them find soul-aligned businesses. I'm very excited to have you here. Thank you for joining us. I'm looking forward to hearing your story.
Thank you for having me on.
Thank you. I'm going to start with a sort of a deep first question. What do you think is your mission in life today?
Someone actually asked me this last week, what's your purpose? I think it's a similar kind of question. And my instant action or reaction was to be me and everything that comes with that. And I think throughout our lives, our mission, our purpose can change in terms of kind of what we're doing physically. But that only comes from being really true to ourselves and being who we are. And so it might sound simple, but it's probably one of the hardest things I've done. And it's really just being me and being true to me and what I want, what I feel I can create, and taking those steps to that as well.
Yeah. No, you know what? Absolutely. Funny enough, I completely agree because I'm also going through the process of being myself as much as possible, and somehow easier said than done because you often find yourself wearing a mask when you didn't want to, perhaps, and you play certain roles and just being conscious of that. Yeah. So in your life, what are some of the things that have been sort of recurring patterns that you feel that you have wrestled with or struggled with?
I think it's those masks. It's who am I trying to be? Who have I tried to fit into, or what kind of mold am I trying to fit into that simply doesn't feel good? That means that I make choices that aren't based on what maybe my intuition or my soul or that kind of gut feeling wants, but actually more of what I think other people will expect of me, or what I think will fit the criteria or be the successful choice or whatever it is. And I think that's kind of been the main theme of, again, coming back to like, who am I and what do I actually want to do? And again, it evolves and it's a interesting process because what maybe I thought I wanted last year has shifts to this year or even week by week. And I think it's coming back to that compassion for myself. So despite wearing all of these different masks, despite maybe choosing something that didn't feel good, going against my intuition, the second theme would be having love and compassion for myself in that and not beating myself up about it and not making it wrong and I think there's many reasons why, but growing up maybe I felt I put so much pressure on myself. So it's actually, I would say that's probably the third theme of like taking that pressure off myself. And they're all interconnected as I'm saying them, but being kind and compassionate to myself and just being okay with all the choices that I have made in the past and with who I am today, knowing that that will also change. It will grow, it will evolve, and I won't be who I am today next year. And that's a good thing.
Yeah, yeah. And why do you think that's important to be authentic to ourselves and to figure out who we are?
I think it's easier. I think it's, for me, I found that life gets easier when we are that because we're not managing so many different expectations and we're not trying to almost second guess what other people think of us. or have we done the right thing? Have we said the right thing? And if we're ourselves, I found that I don't overthink so much. I don't, come back from a conversation or an evening with friends and worry about what I've said or done. It's a much more loving place to live by and to be in. And I think it gives you a lot more space, a lot more energy and time to really think about what you want to create and what you want to do with the time that you have. And yeah, I think it's just great. I think if you have those moments where you maybe it's on holiday where you really relax and you feel, oh, okay, this is me. I feel more me. If you know that feeling, then imagine your whole life like that. And I think it is just that ease that comes with it.
Absolutely. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Because I find the same thing. When I am myself, it actually is easier. It just feels more comfortable. It's not, I don't have to think too much. I can just be. But how do we get ourselves into that space? What do you do to get yourself into that, oh, this is me space? I mean, I think you mentioned a couple of things, but yeah, what would you say?
For me, the first initial things was kind of understanding what my intuition was and what it sounded like within my body. And alongside that, how could I make myself feel safe? So for me and my work, it's all about safety. It's, you have to feel safe to be able to listen to your intuition. It's a feeling. It's whether it's a gut feeling or some people that people feel it differently. But for me, it's a gut feeling. And our bodies are always communicating with us. And if we don't feel safe to hear that communication and block it off, which so many of us do, then it's very hard to hear what is my authentic self? Who am I? What am I doing? And so for me, it was really like slowing down, coming back to very simple practices. So movements, breathing, fueling myself with things that made me feel good. And really those practices of, I don't want to say self-love, but giving myself the space and the time to figure things out. So I've really started working with a lot of, with journaling at the very beginning. And one of my kind of therapists and people that I worked with at the start, I remember she asked me, ask yourself every morning, what is one thing that you want to do today? And it might sound like the simplest question, but I remember hearing it and it blowing my mind because I'd never asked myself that. And she was like, maybe it's go for a swim, maybe it's go for a walk, maybe it's call that person, and then to take that action. It's not enough just to ask yourself, hear it, and then be like, cool, okay, I know what I want to do, but I'm not going to do it. And it's a practice, it's building up that muscle. It's the same as going to a gym. You're not going to get super strong and fit and healthy from that day one. And, sometimes when you really ask yourself, it can be scary, the answer. Maybe it is reach out to that person or, I don't know, whatever we kind of feel fearful of. And then again, it's just that kind of pushing that edge of, okay, well, my body has asked me to do that. Maybe it's a stretch financially, maybe it's a stretch emotionally, whatever it is. But it's then being like, but can I come back to that place of safety and still do that anyway? And I think going back to safety, it's kind of, we have our own ways of staying safe and they've got us to where we are now. But it's, if I want my life to change, if I want it to look a little bit different, that safety is also going to have to change. And it's kind of building up that capacity almost, that stretching ourselves a little bit while staying safe. So it's kind of that like stretch and then kind of that expansion and then being like, okay, is this too much? Can I just come in a little bit? Can I go a little bit further? So it's really playing with it. But practically, I would say, whether it's journaling, whether it's talking to someone, whether it's moving your body every single day, it's kind of having some sort of commitment to yourself and saying, right, I want things to be different. I want to be more me. We've got to start somewhere. So just picking one thing and committing to it and then seeing what evolves.
Yeah, yeah. It's so funny. You talk and I feel so identified. I completely follow what you're saying. I think it's a little scary sometimes to trust yourself in that, asking yourself what you want to do each day. Even that question can be a little bit scary because you feel guilty, or that's not what you've been doing up to now. How could you just do that? But in the doing and in seeing the results and in the realizing that, oh, wow, that felt good, much easier than I thought. It actually gave me all these other positive results. Maybe I can do a little bit more. And so feeling safe as you expand through that, I completely agree. I mean, I've met you. We spent some time skiing together. We had so much fun in France. And I can definitely say that you do listen to yourself a lot. You are somebody that's one of the people that actually, I think, listens to herself the most or knows herself the most. But you're also incredibly intuitive. I feel like you just feel things or just know things. And maybe that's a result of being in touch with yourself. I mean, your mom's also, in the spiritual space. She's also with Orykl. What would you say are some of your greatest gifts?
I think one of them is really seeing people's potential and really seeing them in their kind of most expansive or expanded version of themselves and almost holding them to that, which can also be quite triggering for people. And I've had to learn how to kind of navigate all of that. But I think it's that I do my best every day to kind of hold myself to that. It can be quite a mirror for people to, why not? Why can't you do that? Why have you got that block? Well, kind of just really, it can, it can kind of reflect a lot of things to people. And I think it's not, I don't see it as a bad thing. I do see it as a gift because I think it's definitely that ability to help people get to that point as well. So with the intuitive work that I do, I'm not handing you any answers. I fully believe that we all have the answers within ourselves. And I'm not the person that is going to, spoon feed you the answers or anything. And I think that's probably, it's a very interesting question because it makes you really reflect. But that ability to be able to hold people to that higher self and hold the space and trust that they will get there. And that's been a really interesting process for me as well, of it's not my responsibility to help people get there, but the option is there if they want that. But it's not my responsibility to look after someone, to provide them all the answers, etc. It's really about holding that space of and frequency of kind of love, joy, freedom, liberation, abundance, and allowing people to rise up to that if that's what they want and what they choose to do. Because it's like you can't take a horse to the water, or whatever that saying is, they have to come.
Yeah.
It has to be a choice. And I think, it's that intuition, that ability to be able to, open myself up to channel for the other person's higher self for their best results, and their best choices. But I guess one of the gifts is, being me. I think as you said, it's a challenge, but it's also, I love being me and I love having this, whether it's, my choice before I came onto earth or whatever my soul contracts have been, but I feel so grateful to have chosen this path and to be me and to experience all that I have kind of planned for myself, if we want to go down that route. But I think, holding the space for people, the empathy, but also the kind of holding people accountable, and not falling into the stories, and being able to hold that person in their greatest power.
Yeah, I can honestly definitely attest to that. When we spent that week together, it felt to me like you were very calm in your own skin, very comfortable in your own skin, which made me comfortable in my own skin. But at the same time, you do hold people accountable. And I recall a couple of times when, like, I'm not going to give the example, but a couple of times when some questions were asked and you were very direct about it. Very honest, very direct in such a loving way. Yeah, it was a beautiful week. And just to go back to your comment on holding a mirror for people and showing them their greatness, really, I find that often for people in general, it's easier to see the greatness in other people than to see it in ourselves. So when somebody shows it to us, sometimes we don't believe it or accept it, but it's there and we know that it's there. So it's nice to be able to see that in people too, because we all have that light within us, right? And to be able to show it and allow them to shine it is a beautiful thing. So what would you say? I know that everybody could probably benefit from a session with you, but who would be your best client or the person that would probably get the most out of a session with you?
It's definitely the people who are ready and willing for change, because from the work that I do with my clients, things do change, and it can happen naturally, of course, but it's also, having someone holding you accountable and really, yeah, as I said earlier, kind of holding you to that space. And, I work with intention. So it's, what is your intention? It's not that we're all trying to get to the same space or the same frequency or whatever it is. It's really getting clear on, what do you want to create in your life? Why do you want to create that? What is the feeling that you want to feel? And for me, I love joy. I love love, of course, but joy, that excitement, that passion, that creativity. And it doesn't mean that you have to work with me, you already have to know what you want to do, or you want to, you feel like you've done all the work and you're kind of ready for expansion. It can also be kind of that shedding moment as well. And, shedding always brings new beginnings, and it's a cycle anyway, but I do kind of say that I hold that frequency of joy and let's see what is blocking you to that. So yeah, it can be really deep, it can be really heavy at times, but it's with the intention of joy, not just with the intention of, I want to heal, let's say, or I want to go deep just to discover. It's about, okay, yes, we're going to do X, Y, Z, and we're going to go deep, and it might be tricky, it might be emotional, it might be hard, but it's always with the intention of reconnecting to joy. And so that varies for people. What I perceive as joy will be very different to what my clients perceive as joy. And so it's not about me saying this is the way, it's about you reconnecting to your own wisdom, like we were saying earlier, who you are, who you want to be, and allowing those changes start to move through. And ready to sit in the discomfort of it all. I think we're all kind of used to that if we're already in this line of work, and doing the work. But it's what really, grounds me is that reconnection to joy. And it's, yes, will potentially, you'll feel more connected to the universe, to spirit, to guides, etc. But through my own process as well, it's great having that, and it's very supportive and loving. And yet, we still need to live on this planet and on this earth. And I think that's the point why we're here. It's not to go off with the fairies all the time. It's about really like being here and experiencing it all and experiencing the joy that can come with that. So yeah, connection, but also so grounding and really experiencing life.
Absolutely. Yeah. So what are some of the tools that you use in your sessions? Because I know, because I've been with you, that you are very intuitive, very compassionate, inspiring. In a session, what kind of tools do you use from other that you've learned or that you intuitively know?
So sessions can vary. So I'm actually holding group sessions in Switzerland at the moment every Wednesday, and that is an incorporation of more intuitive movement. So it's about me tuning into the energy of the group and seeing, okay, we're going to start moving some energy. We're going to go into a deep meditative state and process, but our bodies also hold that, and sometimes we just need to stretch. So we start with some movement. And I also do that with my one-on-one private sessions, if that is what feels like it's appropriate. But as you said, it's all very intuitive. So it can be from when I guide you into a meditative state, it's very much about first creating that safety within your body and trusting that whatever is meant to rise will rise in that moment. And we're not going to force anything. We're not going to push until we're kind of like, who knows what. It's not about re-traumatizing or anything. It's about, right, that safety and from that what can rise and what wants to rise and what is ready to rise. And so, it can be a past life regression, it can be more generational work, family work, lots of family work, we all love it. And nervous system regulation and reset, but it's very much, every session is completely different and it is all channeled, so I can't tell you before the session what it's going to be. Maybe I'm already picking up on what the energies are and what's ready to shift, but it also is set by your own intention. I might feel that, oh, okay, this is something that might be worth working on, but actually your intention for that session is completely different. And yeah, it'll probably be linked, but it's okay, that's what you want to work on, so let's see what comes up around that. And I think a lot of people have said that, oh, I thought I had dealt with that years ago, or really, like, that's still coming up, or whatever it is. And it's having that understanding that our body stores onto things, and maybe we've talked about it, maybe we've cried a little bit about something, but actually sometimes it's just still nestled within us, and maybe there's another layer for us to uncover. But it's very intuitive, it's very sometimes it's I'm doing the work, and if it's in person I also do like the hands-on work and energy shifting and balancing, but remotely it also works. And sometimes it's completely silent and I'm doing the work and you're receiving completely, and sometimes I'm guided to ask you questions, see what wants to come up, and for you to kind of have more of an understanding of it as well. So yeah, I can't necessarily say what it looks like, but it covers a whole range of things and it's exactly what you need in that moment.
Yeah. And I know that your mom, as I mentioned, is in this space as well. And I believe you grew up having spiritual, how should I say, like a spiritual mom who explained these concepts or maybe practice with you. Like, how influential was she in your own journey of spirituality, and what did you learn from your mom?
So I think it was a classic thing of, well, my parents do that, so, or my mum does that, so I'm not interested. So even though I grew up with it, I didn't reject it, but I was not interested at all. And it was almost as soon as kind of my mum was like, you know what, she's on her own journey. If she's meant to come to it, she will. That's when I kind of found my own way into it. And I think looking back, I wouldn't have been so open to it when I did get into it if I hadn't had that as growing up. So even though it wasn't, consciously, I wasn't interested, it was normal. It was completely accepted. It was what my mum did. So I think it just made that process a lot easier, and I was able to accept it a lot more for myself as well. But I also went on the route of, Mum, I've just done breath work for the first time. You have to try it. She's like, yeah, okay. Brilliant. So it really opened, it made it normal, it made it very acceptable. And, she also signed me up to yoga classes from a very young age. Yeah, she took me to a few different kind of group sessions, and she took me to her teacher when I was very young, so I was experiencing lots of very strange things. And so it was always, I think, my soul was like, oh my gosh, it's there. Like, let's grab it. But I had to find my own way to it. And now, we do group sessions online together. We're now working together. And that's a really beautiful process that we've come to together. It's taken a few years, I think, for me, I don't know her side of it, but to feel comfortable doing it. And again, to really be okay with being me in front of her. And yeah, I think that word acceptance keeps coming up. Of the more I've accepted myself, the more I feel accepted by others as well. So it's a really interesting exchange and process, but she's also definitely helped me understand a lot of things, especially at the beginning when I started channeling and seeing energy and understanding and reading energy, and what on earth was that during the session. And so yeah, she's been a great guide and teacher through it all as well, and just so nice to be able to have someone so close to me be able to share these conversations as well.
Yeah. Amazing. Yeah. I love your mom. I mean, I met her. She was here on holiday. I'm in Cape Town and we met, and then you and I met. Beautiful family. What can you maybe think of one or two moments in your life that kind of shaped you in terms of your beliefs? Perhaps they changed your beliefs, or something happened or elevated you. Yeah, at some point in your life, can you think of any moments?
There's a few different ones, but the two that kind of stood out when you asked that was the first one was when I experienced panic attacks back 5 years ago, and I'd never experienced panic attacks before. I'd had depression for many, many years prior to that, but the panic attacks was something very new. And almost as they were happening, it was very clear that I was ignoring my body and everything, all the signals that it was giving me, my intuition, everything. And I continued to ignore it. It wasn't oh, that's when I woke up. But I do remember very clearly just being like, okay, my body is really telling me something. But I didn't feel safe enough to kind of get myself out of that situation or change it or whatever it was. And that was followed by, I had COVID and then long COVID, or the symptoms of it. And I really had to listen to my body. So it was very much a few years of, okay, you ignored it for a long time. Let's get back to retuning into it. And also saying, I cannot do that right now, and letting people down in whatever way I thought. So it's definitely, the first process was like listening to my body. And then the second one was, I remember I was, working remotely. I'd kind of ticked all the boxes that I had for myself at the time. I was earning money, working remotely. I was living in Mallorca at the time. And I remember doing a witch wound meditation and session on the 1st of November. And I remember exactly where I was on this beach. And I found kind of all this driftwood, and it just looked like a witchy circle. And I did this meditation and kind of received a lot of visions and clarity around things. And I remember walking back to my house, and, the sky was completely lit up, red and pinks. And I just couldn't stop laughing. And I was like, enough of trying to fit in with the boxes. Like, enough of, you think you're going to do that, but you're still following that old pattern and things. And it was such a, wave of relief, a wave of relief, I think, was the biggest thing, of kind of, that moment where you really feel like you're realigning and you're like, okay, I get it. It's been such a struggle for so long, and now it just felt like everything else fell away. And this was before I started this work, and I remember going home and drawing a huge spreadsheet of like everything that I'd done in my life up to that point. And I was like, okay, so what's the thing that connects everything? And what do I actually want to do? And it was a process. It wasn't all in one night, unfortunately, but it was that, I think, real wake up of, okay, there is a lot more to this. You tick the boxes, but you're not very happy. Let's change something, let's do something. And that's kind of where I started, building with the coaching, and kind of then the channeling all came through. So it was definitely a huge turning point in my life that I can't really remember what my life was like before. It was like, this is life now. So yeah, two big turning points.
Lovely. Yeah. I love it. And I love it that you actually listened to it and you went with it and you're living it, and, it shows definitely. So maybe to wrap up, if somebody has a session with you, I know you explained a little bit how it goes. If you are seeing somebody online, one-on-one, do you normally do one session or multiple sessions, or does it really depend on what the person wants and what they need?
So I do say, if you haven't necessarily entered into this type of work before, to book a block of sessions. It's, you have that accountability, you have that container for other things to rise up also in between sessions. If someone wants a top up or wants to try something new, or, has done a lot of this, then it's also, if I get an intuitive nudge like, oh, okay, they might need a few more sessions, then I'll say, this is what my intuition has said, but please do follow your own intuition. I think with the block of sessions, especially at the beginning, and I know because I've done this myself, things will start to shift and we'll think it's our intuition saying no. And actually it's fear, or it's, it's that mind trying to keep us safe. And so it's also having that kind of safety of, okay, things are starting to arise. I know I've got a session in a week or in 2 weeks. It's okay. Like, it's not just free fall, kind of like, oh my gosh, everything's changing, I don't know what to do. So it's really about having that like safety, that container, also with your intention, with what it is that you want to work on. It's about having the ability to also, give that back to yourself as well. You want something to change, and giving yourself that investment, whatever you want to call it. It's such a beautiful process, and how it unravels as well, and how what I see with clients and the changes they go through, and the life shifts that happen, as well as the physical and the internal shifts. So I think it's always beneficial to ask yourself, is it a one-off, or is it a block, and kind of just being honest with yourself in that as well. And so a session will begin with kind of having a conversation. If it's the first one, it's very much about what's your intention for this whole block of sessions, or just this session. And then kind of discovering what's going on in this moment, in this time, what are the themes that are coming up, any patterns. And then making sure that you've got a space that you feel comfortable in, that you feel safe in, for me to guide you into a meditative state. And you can be lying down, you can be sat up, whatever works best for you. I would say make sure that you've got the rest of the day off, or you're going to do something really nourishing and loving, whether it's going for a swim or going for a walk in nature. But it's best not to kind of drive, or all the classic things. Try not to go back into a stressful situation. Let the integration happen. And sometimes clients have kind of like, I feel that for me, my work is done in that session, but I'll say, if you have the ability to, I'm going to leave you here, and allow the integration for the next half an hour or so. Give yourself the time for things to continue shifting, and whatnot. And as I said earlier, sometimes it's more of a conversation whilst you're in that state, or it's a lot more quiet, and you can kind of I can send you a playlist and music and things, because music and the power of that is so powerful as well. But I think it's, with the hands-on work, obviously online, you can't necessarily do that. But the way that I work, I still tune into energy. We can still work with it. So it's not to put anyone off of, that's how I started. It was COVID time. So it's definitely possible.
Yeah, COVID did bring the online world to everybody, and now it's so easy and common. And even just having this interview, we're in opposite ends of the world. Yeah, but it is true. Like once you start looking inside, like you were saying, so many things can shift, right? And what I love about the work that we do, this like spiritual healing work, is that it is always about yourself. And even though we might go to the session because of work or the relationship or something that happened, you might go there with the intention to sort of resolve that, but it always kind of brings you back to yourself. And as you change inside, that and so many other things can change. And so sometimes it's like, hold on tight because sure, everything's just going to go through like crazy change, but ultimately it is bringing us back more to the path that we came here to live, and to ourselves, and to who we really are. So I really do love the work that we all do here, and I know, again, having spent some time with you, what a treat that was, and I hope we get to do it again. But wrapping it up, could you maybe tell me, if you could have everybody in the world know something about themselves and just like know it with certainty, what would you love for people to know?
That, I think, stop looking outside of yourself for your purpose and your mission. So going back to your first question, and just come back to you. And it can be scary because we might not like what we see, but I think that's the greatest gift we can give ourselves, is that, giving ourselves the space and the time for ourselves to really come out, to really shine in whatever way that we're meant to. But when we really get clear on that, so much falls away, and so much stress and anxiety and expectations fall away. And you come back to joy. You come back to really appreciating the love, the amazing things that we can get to experience, and the impact that we can have on the world. But rather than looking externally, go internally.
Absolutely. And funny, just to end off, I was just reading your profile and you had as your top value freedom. And when I think of you, I do think of that. I mean, you now live in Verbier, Switzerland. I know you travel all over the world. You do these courses, but you follow your heart. And I've seen you travel and just freedom to be ourselves, freedom to do what we really love, freedom to and so it's a beautiful thing that I think you live and that you can give to others. So thank you for doing the work that you do, for living your purpose, and and for being you.
Thank you so much. That it's, as I was saying earlier, that mirroring. It's so nice to be reflected back. So I really appreciate that. So thank you.
Thank you.